is busy. Jay Busy. Jay Busy.
Just tuning in, it's 10:07 in the AM. We have our guest, Ray Robinson. What's going on?
I'm here. I'm good.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's early in the morning.
Yeah.
You here. You getting your stuff on. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come in and sit here. I know it's tough in the morning, especially on a Sunday. You know, everybody be partying, working, doing whatever in the evening time, and you getting in there and coming out. So,
Thank you for having me.
oh, listen, I appreciate you coming up. So, you are Toronto. You're based in Toronto. You're out of Toronto. You've been in the music game for a minute. You're a singer, songwriter, producer. You got a new album just dropped. Awkward Conversations. You know, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. But first, I'll let you talk about you and introduce yourself and just tell us, you know, how you got into the music game. The music game. You've been in there for like 20 years.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more than that, but I mean, definitely a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
The 20 years for what people can see,
Okay.
but then there's that time frame before for me, which was right at high school. And I'm okay to date myself.
You old? That's what you're saying? You old?
I mean, not old, but when I was graduating from high school in like '93.
Yeah.
And this was in New York. That's when I got into the business, and from that point on, I mean, even a little bit before that, I was always recording, but the business aspect was
Right.
it started in '93, and right away with the people that we were connected with, I was a part of a group, and the people that we were connected with were people that helped put out SWV, and like, they were really in the industry.
Right.
And living in New York and SWV being my favorite group,
Right.
and hearing their plans for us at the time, because at the time that was when Boyz II Men was hot, Joe C, Silk, Shy.
Right.
So we were gonna be one of those, and I was excited. I always wanted to be in a group. I had a group, and
was group up.
well,
The sky and the you know,
I mean, the group went through a couple of iterations, and from gospel to R&B,
yeah.
but we settled on the name DL, which stood for down low.
Right.
And at the time, what we meant by down low was simply, hey, let's do our thing and not tell anybody.
Right.
Down low has since changed to something else, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it was fun times.
Yeah. Well, it's always good times in the beginning. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, you're kind of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's get that going. And now, you know, years later, you know better. You know better. All right. So I didn't know that you were in New York.
Yeah.
All right. So born and raised in the States, or
No, I was born here.
yeah.
I moved 87, and I went to junior high and high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how was that?
At first, it was a culture shock. And it's funny that I'm saying it was a culture shock because I was there every year
Yeah.
before then, visiting family that I eventually ended up living with.
Right.
But it's a lot different when you're living there. The difference between Canada and the US at that time, especially, was like night and day.
Yep.
And I really had to adjust. And I'll say for the first 2 years living in New York, I was just in a daze. I was just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started high school where I actually felt like I was awake.
Yeah. Crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So continue on with the music you had, your group. You know, you were excited. Did you come up with any tunes? And you were doing gospel at the time, so I know that's a totally different venue than the R&B side and soul side that everything like that. So,
Yeah.
when you were doing that, did you go on tour? Was the group in the gospel aspect being very successful? Um, and then what happened? Because obviously you're no longer in the group, or you said something changed. So what happened to lead you to where the path that you're currently working on?
I mean, it was pretty simple. So the gospel group started first. And then one of the guys in the gospel group said, "Hey, what do you guys think about doing R&B?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not doing that."
Mm-hmm.
But then he brought up a really good point. He's like, "Well, look at Stevie Wonder and look at certain artists that were doing music that everyone listens to, including church people.
Yeah.
And it's not abrasive. It's not vulgar in any way. Like we can do R&B that's clean. We don't have to be Josie."
Yeah.
And after some arm twisting, I said, "Yeah, you know what? Why not?" So one member was still with the absolutely no
Right.
on the absolutely no side of things. So there was another guy who was the complete opposite of that guy. He was straight R&B hip hop all day, every day. And so he joined the group, and that's when we became DL. And we just went on this little New York kind of a tour. Greenwich Village, we did the Apollo.
All those tough, man.
Yeah, and the funny thing is we did the Apollo as a gospel group, and we got that polite clap.
Yeah.
And then we went back as an R&B group, and it was like we were stars. And it's the first time I ever felt like wow, these women are chasing us.
Yeah.
Like literally they were
Yeah.
chasing us
Yeah.
after we finished. They found us in the back, and it was just I'd never experienced that before, but you know, at 18 I'm like, I think I might like this a little bit. And it's not that I wanted people to chase me, but the fact that they appreciated us in that way,
Yeah.
it was definitely exciting. Um, but as we fast forward, we started working on original music. The guy that we met was a lawyer who was a part of a company, um, and basically back then what they did was they would sign you to a production deal,
Right.
and it's very similar to the production deal that TLC had, and I would say Tony Braxton had.
Right.
And you see what happened with them as far like they're very successful, but how Chili, T-Bot, no, Chili, no, Left Eye, sorry.
Mhm.
Left Eye was breaking down how you can be broke
Right.
after selling all these
Yeah.
millions of albums.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
What you want to call it was the TLC documentary that they did. And yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So basic long story short, they were offering us this contract, and basically they wanted to be, so as a production company, they would then have the right to shop our music.
Right.
And then once they landed a deal, then they would convert to our record label.
Right.
But the problem with that was that the guy that was a part of the record label was also trying to be our lawyer.
Right.
And then they also wanted to dabble in managing. So they were kind of monopolizing
Everything.
every point that would surround. So they would have every say so. Like there was nothing that we would have control over. They'd probably even own the name that we came up with, not that they came up with.
Right.
And I was hesitant, not knowing the industry. I was still kind of hesitant because I'm like, seems like kind of a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was I just said, you know what, this is what I'll do. to take the pressure off of me really trying to figure this out because I couldn't understand that contract. That there was two separate contracts and it was really thick.
Yeah.
So long story short, I just told them, I said, listen, as I'm about to graduate from high school, my school visa is going to be up. And I don't want to have any drama, going to another country and then trying to get back in. And they're saying that I'm not uh, legal to be here. So you guys get me a visa, I'll sign this contract. They were probably working on it, but I decided to come to Canada and try to go to college or university or something. And that's why I left that situation. But they ended up doing some really good things.
All right, that's good. So the group that you left did some good stuff.
Yeah.
Are they still around today or?
No, two of the guys, well, one of the guys for sure became a pastor.
Okay.
But what they ended up doing was they were working with Will Smith. They were on, I think, the Men in Black 2 soundtrack.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of the song, but they were out there.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys, Chico Beneman, he ended up becoming an actor.
Okay.
So if you've ever watched a show called The Haunted Hathaways, it's a Disney show. But he's the ghost dad in that television show. And then he's done some things beyond that. But after that, I would say everyone just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah. So that's your history. That's you going through your changes, and then you left to come to Canada, back to Canada.
Yeah.
Right. You did your college. Did you do music in college, or did you do something else?
Well, I didn't actually do college. I had to do life. It's funny to say, not life in jail. Just to,
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Life.
Like I had to figure out where am I gonna live? How am I gonna eat? How am I gonna clothe myself? So that became the thing. The only good thing, the consistent thing that remained in my life was no matter where I went, musical opportunities always presented itself. So I met a guy that had a studio and he let me use the studio for free. And there was a guy that always came to the studio whose brother worked for Arista.
Yeah.
And he was engaged and or married to Deborah Cox.
Oh, okay.
The guy's brother, not the guy that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And so I would hear all of Deborah Cox's new music before she was even released.
Yeah.
To this day, I still say some of her best songs are songs she's never put out.
Right.
I've heard it like once or twice, but it really hit me when I heard it. And then, so the same guy, he brought my music that I was working on to different people.
Yeah.
And so I was always like right there, like one step behind an artist. Like, so for instance, he brought my music to LaFace.
Okay.
And
these records. Mm-hmm.
And the feedback was, oh man, this stuff is really good. We like him, but he's really young and we're having our issues with a really young artist right now.
Yeah.
His voice is changing and all these different things, and we don't want to deal with two male artists in the same world.
Yeah.
And that artist was Usher. So I'm like, if I was just a couple of days before Usher, that could have been my spot.
Yeah.
Like timing is everything in this industry.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much been my whole career, just like a step behind, or at least it felt that way.
Right. So you had all these, and let's say that you met some interesting people, and you had all these step backs. right? And you're one step. So now going forward, I know um, you also produce and you also write. So
Yeah.
who have you written for? Um, because you said that you're still in the music game, you've still been doing it. You were doing life, as as you said, you're doing life. So in order to keep yourself in the know, because I know you're not just singing, but you also write. So were you also ghostwriting for other artists, or did anybody pick you up to say, hey, you know what, can you write me a song for this, or
Well, I didn't actually write for anyone that people would know.
mm,
Um, and I don't even like saying it like that. There's a young lady by the name of Andrea Lewis
mm-hmm,
who is doing acting in LA right now,
right,
or just the US. She's doing well in that. She's someone I wrote for. I was supposed to do some work with Drake before he was Drake.
yeah,
Um, and I've done collaborations with people like Cardinal and Rochester Juice and a lot of other people.
right,
But I never actually wrote for anyone. But I did get a publishing deal. And the way that came about was pretty much me doing a lounge with a friend. Like it was her night, but I came on stage, I did a little song, and there was a guy in the audience, and some guy that I know from Sony Canada came up to me and he was like, hey, this guy wants to meet you. So we met,
mm-hmm,
and he's like, yeah, I'm staying here for a couple of days. Hit me up. I'm at this hotel. And I was like, I didn't hit him up because I've heard that spiel before
mm-hmm,
over the years. I'm just like, but I'm not even about don't sell me a dream.
yeah,
And few weeks to a month maybe passed by, and I get a phone call that someone from Warner Music is looking for me. I was like, that's weird. So basically, the guy that
that you
I
brushed off,
he hunted me down because he wanted me to be a part of a duo group.
right,
And at that time, this is when D'Angelo, Music Soul Child, Erica Badu, Jill Scott was about to come out, and Glenn Lewis was about to come out with his album, Canadian. So that soul movement was going on, and he was like, hey, I want to do a duo. And I was going to be me and this guy from Washington, state of Washington.
right,
And so he gave me a publishing deal. And that's the most money I've ever seen at one time in my life. They just put,
some zeros,
like literally $15,000. This is after I paid off some lawyer stuff. $15,000 was the first amount that they put just into my account one time. I was like, $15,000. And then there was more money coming on the back end. And he's like, I'm giving you this deal to keep you until the record deal comes through.
right,
And then what ended up happening is you're watching TV and you see a plane fly into a tower, and and you can't get a hold of people. When you finally do, you realize that the industry was kind of brought to its knees, not just the music, but everything.
yeah,
So that's obviously September 11th.
mm-hmm,
And so needless to say, that record deal never went through. And then my second term for my publishing never happened. So again, I'm like, I'm right there. It's about to happen. Like, guaranteed it's about to happen. And then something derails it. I'm just like, wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Listen, uh, and we mentioned him before, but what Jake says it's God's plan.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can't do too much when you're not in control of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? These things happen, and you know, you sometimes you lose hope, and sometimes you lose faith, but then you know it turns you in a different direction, and then all of a sudden you see, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, or you start to see the
Mhm.
light at the end of the tunnel. So now that's 9/11. Geez. So what transfer, and kudos to you because you're still positive, right? You still have that positive mentality going on. So now we move forward
Mhm.
and we're here.
That light's actually about to pop.
Yeah.
I have to focus.
Yeah, see, so we're here and now you're dropping. You were on the Hip Hop Awards show in 2017. Uh, you did a song up there because I saw this on YouTube. So you know I've been looking into you.
Oh, I don't even remember doing that.
Yeah, you did a little interview um, with a gentleman out there, and you were basically saying that you know you're happy to be there, and yes, you influenced certain artists in Toronto, as you mentioned, Cardinal, and so that's really fantastic. Now we come up here to 2024. You're dropping this album, Awkward Conversations,
Mhm.
and you know why now? Why Awkward Conversations? And I know if anybody's listening out there, 416-804-8244. If you got any questions, you want to say something to Ray, hit me up. You know the number. But getting back to this Awkward Conversations, why Awkward Conversations? And I know listening to the tracks that I listened to is a lot of stuff. I'm going to get into it. A lot of stuff about a little bit of heartbreak and whatnot, so forth. And I don't want to get full details of everything that happened, but I noticed I noticed some of the tracks, you know, talking about that. So, um, how did Awkward Conversations come about?
Well, I had to backtrack in order to get there.
All right, go ahead.
So the light at the end of the tunnel was I just said, you know what, I'm gonna make music. I had a friend named Sean who was working with uh, a crew called Baby Blue.
Right, Baby Blue Sound Crew.
Baby Blue Sound.
Mm-hmm. I know those guys. Mm-hmm.
So he said, hey, come to the studio with me. I want to do a track with you. So we were gonna do a duet, and I went to that studio, and it's like I never left. He went on to do other things, my friend that brought me there, but I never left. And so I ended up working with Kid Cut,
Yeah.
and we made one song for their Baby Blue Sound Crew Volume 2. And then next thing you know, I'm working on an album with him and a guy named Colin Monroe.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, there's a bidding war. And I'm like, is this really happening? Like, this was kind of quick. After all these years of getting notes.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden everybody's fighting for your stuff.
Everybody. So, like, they're paying for me to do shows to show them what I can do.
Right.
And we decided to go with Universal, but we also decided to do our own thing. Because by that time, I've been jaded by the industry so much.
Right.
It's like, let's just make it ours,
Right.
but we'll have them distribute it. And from that point, as soon as the first single, Mr. Chance, was released, then it was like this whirlwind of, you're nominated for a Juno, you're nominated for a UMAC Award, you're nominated for a Canadian this award. And then Cardi hit me up and said, hey, I want you to do a song with me, which ended up being Everyday Rude Boy.
Right.
And I'm looking at Rihanna and she's looking at me, and like all these different things are happening. I'm just like, how's this my life? Like, it just, but again, the perseverance paid off.
Right.
And so now you fast forward, stuff happens with that situation. Um, so now I'm labelless. Um, and at some point, I'm like, I don't even want to do R&B music anymore. So I end up doing a little inspirational gospel album
Right.
to fulfill my mother's wish. And that ran its course. And I slowly started to get back into R&B, which leads me to life created the album Awkward Conversation.
Right.
Um, and I wanted to detail some of my missteps in relationships.
Right.
So the heartbreak was actually caused by me.
Right.
Um, but the heartbreak affected me, even though it was caused by me, it still affected me.
Of course.
And I had to acknowledge how it affected other people, and I had to figure out a way, not even figure out, but just commit to, like, I can't go down that road again.
Right.
Especially for the hurt that it causes other people.
Right.
And I just figured,
Making up.
yeah, making an album. And the beautiful thing about that is it kind of works as therapy.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I figure anyone who's lived long enough, so anyone within a certain age range,
Mm-hmm.
can relate to some of these things. Maybe they didn't do what I did, but they were on the receiving end of it, or maybe they know someone who did. Or also, there's a song for my daughter. There's a song about just being proud of who you are.
Right.
And some of these conversations are awkward but necessary.
Yeah, it's true. And in saying that, you know what? Let's play a song from. We'll play a song from your album. It's 10:34 in the AM. We're here with Ray Robinson talking about life in the music industry, about how he has grown from a little tadpole into a big frog. You know what I'm saying? This is Summer of '92 featuring Kid Cut. Right here on The Streets is Busy, Online Radio. Back out. Yeah. And that's Summer of '92 featuring Ray Robinson. Off the Awkward Conversation, a soundtrack. Right? So that's what it is. How did that song come about?
Ah, man, I figured to start the album, I wanted to start it with a fun feel, and because I knew the album would be a little bit heavy.
Right.
So for me, when I want to escape, I'd watch a movie. Obviously, you go on vacation. That's a form of escape. But sometimes in the daytime, I'll just think about the past. And in thinking about the past, like it gets triggered actually by like listening to, say, 90s R&B.
Right.
And then I think of where I was
At
when
that time.
that first time I heard Weak from SWV.
Yeah.
And it just brings back all these great feelings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to capture that in a song, kind of like how Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Summertime did. Or
Yeah.
actually, at the time, was he Fresh Prince?
No,
Or just Will?
it was just Will Smith. He came up with this as Will Smith at that time.
Yeah.
Because that was sidebar, and that's when Will Smith was going through his change and decided that he didn't want to do the Fresh Prince because Fresh Prince was his kid stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As high school one, not so forth. But in order to become, I guess, more famous, more well known, he had to change, and he came out as himself. Will
Looks like
Smith.
it was
And that
right.
was it. And that was the time it was right, and that was the first track, Summertime. And I mean, I remember when that came out, everybody. There wasn't a person in Toronto that wasn't jamming that, especially if you had a car and you were at any kind of meet or you went to any kind of event, you're sitting outside, everybody's, yeah, it was the track. It was the track, and a lot of people were shocked when that came out because they're like, this is
Yeah.
Fresh Prince.
Didn't sound like
Yeah, it didn't sound like him at all. And everybody's like, what? This- so yeah, he changed the game and changed his game up, and that's what it's so. Going back to you, that's what it is. You know, you remember these things, and then all of a sudden you're coming out with this track,
yeah.
right? And I love the production and everything like that. I mean, on the album itself, you did most of the production.
All
Yes, all the production, okay.
all the writing.
All right. Well, no, obviously. You're right. You know, you didn't get no ghostwriter to write when you can write. That's
No ghost writing.
right. And I mean, you said, you know, you had a little heartbreak and you broke some hearts, and this is how you come about with the album. So, what is the? I guess when you write, what is your inspiration? I mean, you all obviously draw from life for this album, but what are your other influences? You said you did a gospel album,
Mhm.
right, for your mom, which was really nice of you. But what is your inspiration for when you sit down and write? And do you come up with your stuff like, you know, at work, you know, all of a sudden see something and you start throwing to some lyrics or doing a little harmony, and then you're like, oh, you know what, this could work, and then you go back home and you start jotting it down. Or I know some producers um, have their phone, and all of a sudden something will hit them, and they're like, hum something in their phone and save it for later.
Yeah.
Go for them. So, what is your process?
The process has changed. It used to just be like wishes, desires, feelings.
Right.
I just have a feeling like I want this girl to like me for me. I know that sounds really generic and simple, but
Yeah.
at the time I didn't feel like, especially when you put out your first album, you don't feel like people like you for you
Right.
because now you're on television, you're playing on the radio. So when you meet people after that point, and even some of the people you knew before then, it's like, what are you really around for? But as I've gotten older, 20 years later, right now my process, I almost feel like I don't write. Um, I format it, but I just live life and I allow life to dictate the songs.
Mhm.
And but as far as how I get it out, yes, I'll sometimes just do a voice note into my phone. Or if I happen to be at home, because I have a setup at home to record, I'll just do it right there in my little studio setup. And then I expound on that idea. Sometimes a beat can inspire me. I might hear someone else's beat and I'd be like, you know what, I want to do something like
Yeah.
that. But really and truly, I really just allow life to dictate. So I don't want to put out 1,000 songs in a month. I'd
Yeah.
rather do less, but have the stories be something that people can really relate to because we all go through the same things.
And that's the whole thing, right? I mean, it's relatable content. We all go, and it's something that I say to people when I'm talking about mental health and I'm talking about, deaths and everything like that. Like, when you start talking about stuff, you might be doing it for your process or for your healing or for whatever else. But when other people listen to it, they start to relate to it because they've gone through it or they're going through, So I find that with music, when you start writing from your own personal experiences, it's a part of you that you can share and everybody else will follow along, and say, hey, you know what? I thought I was the only one that was going through this, and this guy here is just talking like it's hitting me. You know what I'm saying? And that really that's how you connect with people,
Yeah.
right? It's through putting a little bit of yourself out there, and then saying, "Damn, I should not have done that, man." Yeah.
Pretty much.
So, you know, um, you're just listening in. You're listening to the Streets is Busy. I got Ray Robinson, singer, songwriter, producer. New album, Awkward Conversations. Hit it up. You can get it off of YouTube. Listen on YouTube. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it. But 416-804-8244. It's 10:45 a.m. In about 15 minutes, we'll take a break and go on to the commercial because we still got to pay bills. You know how that works. Still got to pay the bills, so we'll do that. And I got to do my shout outs because I forgot to do that first thing. So I'll do the shout outs later and we'll come back with Ray. But right now, we're talking to Ray Robinson. We just played the track Summer of '92, hot track featuring Kid Cut. What are, now again, you've been in the game for a minute. So, and you've been both here, Canada, and in the States. So, what is one of your memorable moments? I mean, you said that you got a Juno Award and you got a couple other Canadian awards, but what so far has been your most memorable? Something that you'll always cherish, or you're like, damn, like I can't believe this happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Let's go positive because I'm sure there's a lot of negatives, but let's go positive.
No, it's definitely all positive, actually.
Okay, good.
Oh, there's some negative, actually, now that I think of it. But no, there's a moment. It was like a small, quiet moment, but it meant a lot. So, part of my first album, I'm playing on Flow, on Much Music. I'm nominated. I'm doing really well. Then I have my manager at the time was working at CTV,
Right.
and she mentioned, no, actually, so I'm trying to remember it as I'm telling you, but somehow Alicia Keys' management wanted to do something with me.
Right.
And so this particular day, Alicia Keys just happened to be in town.
Right.
And so my manager said, why don't you come by to CTV and hang out? So I'm there just hanging out. She's doing her thing. She's got her entourage, and I'm just standing in the back,
Right.
just giving her her space. And then after they did CTV, they said they're going to Flow.
Right.
And so she says, no, the manager says to me, yeah, why don't you come through the Flow and then we can actually chop it up there. So I come to the station, and for me, it's home.
Yeah.
It's Mark and Jim.
Mm-hmm.
They know me, I know them. And so when we get there, she says to me,
Now, who's this?
sorry, Alicia.
Right.
She says to me, hey, Ray, this is your city. Why don't you show me the ropes? Why don't you sit in on the interview and like be a part of the interview? And I was like, that's really nice, but it's your interview, like,
Right.
and I'm here all the time. But as the interview went on, she made sure that she shouted me out. It's like, in the studio, just chilling in the back, acting shy. Ray Robinson's here with me, shout out, showing me around the city. Immediately after that, my phone started to ring.
Right.
I'm like, but guys, I got Mr. Chance, I got Be the One, I got Everyday Rude Boy. And now you think because Alicia's saying something that, but regardless of how people reacted, it was just nice to see that someone that was at the time like at the top of
Yeah.
the food chain in the music industry. She was so humble and gracious, and she just welcomed me in like she's known me forever.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's a really beautiful human being,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget that.
Yeah. And I not that I've met any kind of crazy superstars or anything like that. I had the opportunity last year or the year before, it was last year, to hang out with Shaggy and Kes.
Mhm.
And a lot of people say, oh, they're this and they're that. Well, I found that they were actually enjoyable people to hang out with and just chit chat with and chill out with. I didn't find anything crazy or anything like that. But you're right, when you get shout outs or you actually talk to somebody who is at the top of the food chain and they're very humble and they're very nice, and it does make you feel a little nice and stuff, and inside will sit there like say, man, did you get at least a picture with her? You have to get a picture with her.
No, we didn't take a picture. I I'll be honest, I'm not big on taking photos with entertainers, because I know how it could feel. And people are like, "Can I get a pic? Can I get a pic? Can I
Yeah.
get?" It's like, sometimes you just want to have a moment that's not surrounded
Painted.
by cameras. So I just hold it in my memory. If no one believes that it happened, that's okay. I was there.
Yeah, and if it was on flow, there's a soundbite somewhere.
Yeah, it probably is.
Of it. That's how the media industry goes. You can't say anything if it's on air. Somebody has it somewhere. If you said it and somebody was recording, it's somewhere. City TV. Even if you're outside, doing interviews or having conversations,
Right.
simply somebody has it somewhere. And they'll be like, oh yeah, here.
I never even thought about that, but I'm not even gonna look it up. Like it
No.
has been.
I'm not saying to look it up. I'm just saying that you're not the only one. You know what happened.
Mhm.
And thing is, it's like the old saying: if you don't have a picture of it, especially now with these kids, if there's no picture, it never happened. It didn't exist, right? But you can always find a soundbite or something like that, or anything. Even pictures can be fake, but I'll definitely get a picture with you later. That's for sure. I ain't gonna lie, you know what I'm saying? Because you about to blow up and stuff like that. So I didn't say, yeah, I know that guy. I know that guy when he was in his little tattoo. See him grow. But besides that, how do you feel about now that you're doing your own thing? Now that you start dropping your album and you're getting back into I don't know if getting back into it, but you're now taking more control of your industry life,
Mhm.
right? How do you feel about that? Have you had positive reactions from the album, or
I've had positive reactions, but it's night and day from what I was doing 20 years ago.
right?
20 years ago, there was a whole record label. That record label comes with marketing, promotion, people that deal with the radio, people that deal with television stuff, people that even field other opportunities and create other opportunities like tours. Um, and now all that's on my shoulders.
Right.
Something that you had like 20 people doing. It's just me. So,
I know.
and then when you also think about the shift in music, where before it wasn't an online industry, it was you have to go to HMV or Virgin or wherever to pick up your music. Now you can go on your phone and it's
Mhm.
right there at 12:01 a.m. every Friday, brand new music. And back in the day, it used to be Tuesdays
Yep.
when the stores open.
When the store's open.
So still trying to navigate how to get the awareness out there. That's the hard part right now, especially when again, I don't have the finances that the record labels provide, but I also don't have the debt that the labels provide with the interest on top of it.
Right.
So there's freedom, but I just can't move as fast.
Well, and listen, that's everything, right? You have the freedom, but you also are stuck, right? And I know that from firsthand because listen, everything that everything that happens here, is all me,
Yeah,
right? It's not. I don't have a full production team or anything like that. I have, my program director helps me out with my grammar and stuff and everything like that. Because I'm gonna tell you, I suck when I start sending out, and she's always, oh, you can't send this out, this that, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But other than that, everything else falls on shows like getting the show together, doing this, getting the promotions and marketing and stuff. All comes from me.
mhm,
And yeah, I don't have that big pocket, so I got to choose where I spend money if I spend money, and what's my best free option that I have, right? So I get that, and it's a work in progress, right? But how's your fan base? You got a fairly decent fan base. Plus, you also have other artists that you work with, or that you have worked with that can also help you out with marketing and promotion
for sure,
and stuff like that. So it's not that you can always reach out to them and say, hey, that's what I'm doing.
for sure. Um, I think the other tricky part is I'm really not a social media type of person.
Hmm.
So to get on there and say, hey, I got a new album out, I do it once or twice, and then I feel like I'm bugging people if I do it more than that. And so I have to get past that and just not care. That's not a natural part of my personality. Like, to be honest, I never wanted to have any sort of fame. I just
Right.
love music.
Yeah.
And I figured I wanted to make the music that I wanted to hear. So I did that. But but fortunately, right now, for anyone who's listening, my album is available on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, anywhere where you can download or stream music. It is available.
There you have it. 10:57 in the AM. If you're just tuning in, listen to the streets is busy. Right here on mylimeradio.com. I'm gonna play some bills. Play some bills. Pay some bills. Pay some bills. And when we come back, we will get into the industry life for an up and coming artist. And we'll talk more with Ray Robinson, and we'll play more off the album Awkward Conversations. All right, we'll be back in a minute. Yeah, and we're back. On the streets is busy with my glasses. Oh, they're there. I can see. Yay! Yeah, we're back. It's 11:05 in the a.m. Speaking with Ray Robinson and his new album, straight out of Toronto, his new album, Awkward Conversation. And we are here to dive deeper into the album. But I think I'm trying to switch stuff and talk about, because you've been in the industry for a minute. And if you didn't hear, you got some shout outs from Alicia Keys, and you work with Cardinal, who's was blowing up in the state. I mean, he's still okay. You know what I'm saying? But these are all old school artists and guys that have been around in the game for a minute. Because of your let's call it history, and the way that you've come about and come through the system. And as you said, you've always been like a step behind and just miss these moments. But you're now seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. How has the industry changed? Like, I heard somewhere that an artist said that it takes at least 10 years in the industry before something is going to happen for you. Is that true, or is it just depend on, you know, right place at the right time, or right place at the wrong? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I say it's different for everybody. Some people might take 2 minutes, some people might take 20 years.
yeah,
Um, but yes, a lot of that being in the right place at the right time, or just having a friend or someone that just really believes in you in the right position at the right time. Um, like I must say, there's a lot of doors that have been opened for me because I know people in certain positions,
yeah,
and I think that's one really big thing. If you know somebody in the right position, you can definitely have some doors open for you. But at the same time, like the magic of timing and circumstance and just what's going on in the world and that song being released at that right time, and you never really know what the right time is.
right.
So you just really just gotta just do it.
So, do you think that people hold off, like when you're in the industry and you have their album? Like, do you think that sometimes the record labels or people hold back because it's not necessarily the right time, but they have other people that they want to push out before you, and they know that, you know, if they drop your album or your single, it's gonna drown that person that they really want to promote.
Yeah, it might take away from some of the resources in order to promote that particular person. But I don't. Again, it's to be quite honest. Right now, the industry is about what's hot right now, and what I mean by what's hot, like if someone, let's say Cardi B,
Right.
um, if she's doing something that's resonating, then they'll just keep on whatever Cardi B's doing, and any
Right.
female artist will try to do what Cardi B just did to mimic her success. And then the next day it'll be somebody else, and people it moves like that as opposed to back in the day when it was like you work an album,
Right.
and you pretty much, to be honest, the radio, just so everyone knows, is actually brainwashing you. And what I mean by that is they're gonna flood you with a song, and they're gonna tell you that the song is good. It might be good, it might not be the greatest song, but if you hear it 20 times in one day,
Heavy rotation.
you're gonna think it's good. And then all of a sudden you're gonna want to see this artist and know more about them. And to be honest, I promise you, if you hear any of my songs 20 times a day for a month, you're gonna think it's, even if you don't like it, you're gonna know it. It's gonna be programmed into your brain.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's with anything, right? It's heavy rotation, especially when it comes to the radio. There's only a couple of radio stations that quote unquote guarantee no repeats on their station, but everything else is heavy rotation. It's just like if you're ever driving in your car and you turn on the radio and you hear one song, and then you the foot radio stations and you hear the same song, might be like 2 seconds later, but you hear the same song and then you go to the third radio, it's just everybody's saying the same thing.
Yep.
Right? It's heavy rotation. It's getting, like you say, brainwashing. And that's, you know, that's media in general, brainwashing.
Yeah.
You know, fake news, Donald Trump says.
And brainwashing doesn't have to be a bad thing. It sounds like a bad term, so I won't
Not a
use.
bad term. I mean, it's just, you know, it's tricks of the trade, right? If you see something like advertising,
Mhm.
if you see something, um, what was it? It was Bulldog. There was an advertising, and I'm sorry to cut you. Um, there was an advertising a couple years back, and all you saw on the ad was something to do with a dog. Like you'd see a bulldog, or you see a bone, or you see, and everybody tried to figure out what the hell that is.
Mhm.
Or Bad Bunny. When Bad Bunny came out, all you saw was the bunny.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, not what it was about, it was just the bunny.
Yeah.
And everybody is like, what the hell is that? You know, and that's anywhere you went, that's it. And then all of a sudden, Bad Bunny clothing comes up, and everybody's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Again, the brainwashing. That's what the mind does. So
Yeah.
the music industry does the same thing. You want to push out an artist, yeah, let's stream them here. Let's go here. Let's do quote unquote interviews, which I'll consider what we're doing as an interview. Some people might, but I'm having a conversation because conversation leads to understanding. Understanding leads to change. That's why I have conversations and not interviews people. Anyhow, shout outs to Sandy. Messaged me. She says hello, how you doing? And she's definitely gonna check out some of your music.
Yay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's all good. I'm gonna change it up, and at the end of the show, about maybe 10 minutes left in the show, we'll get you to shout out some people, say how they can reach you, how they can download your music, and if you're doing any shows or concerts, or any sort of things you can promote that. Then I'll
For sure.
do my shout outs, and then we'll end up the show and go from there. It's 11:13 in the AM. I'm talking to Ray Robinson, singer, songwriter, producer. Awkward Conversations. We're going to play another track from that in a little bit, but right now we're just talking about the industry and the brainwashing that the industry does to you, good or bad. 416-804-8244 if you got any questions, or you just want to say hello. That's what it is, right? We on MyLineRadio.com. Oh, man. So back to the industry. Back in the day, I had with my brothers, we had Black Dolphin Entertainment, which my brother, who I'm going to introduce you to on another day, is actually a producer. And the music that we're listening to right now, you can't hear it, but the music that we're listening to